Okay, so this is lesson 12, and we are going to be talking about zeros and what they mean in some of the bigger numbers today. So let's look at number 1. It says, what happens if we insert a 0 to the right of a whole number? So if you look at this table right here, I'm looking at this one right here. Here's my whole number. If I insert a 0 after a 3, what happens to it? Does it get bigger or does it get smaller? Bigger. Okay. So then does it change the value of it? Yeah. If we insert a 0 to the right of a whole number, and I'm just going to do this because I know some of us still struggle, right, left. If we insert a 0 to the right of a whole number, that's not a decimal, it's a whole number, what happens to the number? The value changes. Now, if we insert a 0 to the right of a decimal number, so like here I have 3/10 and I add a 0 to the right. Here I have 6 7/10 and I add a 0 to the right. What happens to, what do you think happened? The 0, when inserted after a decimal, does not change the value. It doesn't change, it doesn't get bigger, and it doesn't get smaller. Ivy, have a seat. What happens if we insert a 0 to the left of a whole number? If I put a 0 to the left of a whole number, what happens? Stays the same. There's nothing happens. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. It didn't say add a decimal and insert a 0. But if we insert a 0 to the left of a whole number, it doesn't do anything to it. What happens if we insert a 0 to the left of a decimal just after a decimal point? Think about that for a second. Well, for example, right here, if I have 3/10 and I put a 0 in front of it, what happens to the value? Does it change the value? Yes. It goes from a 3/10 to 3/100, which is smaller. 3/10 is bigger. So it changes the value. Zeros play a ginormous part of numbers. Zeros play a huge part in numbers and reading numbers and understanding decimals and understanding numbers. Are whole numbers and decimals alike or different when it comes to putting in extra zeros? I want you to think about it and turn and talk to your neighbor. Are whole numbers and decimal numbers alike or different when it comes to putting in extra zeros? It's a little different. When we put them to the right, a whole number gets bigger. A decimal doesn't change. When we put a 0 to the left of a whole number, like these, the whole number doesn't change. But when I add it to the left of a decimal number, the value changes. It's a different size. So you have to understand that when you add it in front of a decimal, on the left, it changes. On a whole number, it doesn't change. So when you're looking at number 6 down here, do the pairs of numbers below have the same value? 6/10 and 6/10, yes or no? Yes. 25/100 and 25/100? Yes. 9/10 and 90/100? Yes. Because those zeros, the 0 doesn't change. The 0 doesn't change the value. Okay? The nuts and bolts of this lesson are, we're starting to compare numbers that are bigger than just one or two places. Okay? So we have to understand where things sit in the infrastructure of place value. So you can use your understanding of place value and placement of zeros, that's what we just talked about, and decimal numbers to compare decimal numbers. So which of these numbers, 235, 23, or 24, are the greatest? If you notice over here, you line them up with the decimal point, and it fills in the blanks with zeros. Because if you add a 0, does that change the value? No, just fills in the space. We can tell right away which one's the biggest. Which one's the greatest? 2 and 4 tenths, right? 4 tenths is the same as 40 hundredths. 4 tenths equals 40 hundredths. We just said when you add a 0 to the right, I'll put our right and our left up here again. When we add that 0 to the right, after a decimal, your value doesn't change. It's just holding a place. So when we're looking at these down here, 27 and 5 tenths, 8 and 37 hundredths, which one's bigger? 27, that one's easy. When our whole number is bigger, focus on the whole number. But look at, number 8, 6 and 4 hundredths or 5 and 98 hundredths? 6 and 4 hundredths. 7 and 36 hundredths or 7 and 38 hundredths? 38. 36 and 9 hundredths or 36 and 9 tenths or 37 and 8 tenths? So here we have 5 tenths and 26 100ths. And if you weren't sure, you could always line up your decimal point and add the 0. 50 is bigger than 26. So 9 hundredths or 9 tenths? 9 tenths. Because I would rather have 9 dimes than 9 pennies. Right? So 8 tenths or 80 hundredths? Equivalent. Good job, guys. You're getting it. 42 hundredths or 6 tenths? 6 tenths. Awesome. So Francis measured some common insects. The table shows the length in centimeters. List the insects from longest to shortest. Well, let's look at the whole numbers first. Which one's going to be the longest? Bumblebee. Oh, it'd help if I spelled it right. Bumblebee. Okay, I'm done. Which one's next? Cricket. Oh, now we're close. So I'm going to add a 0 to this just because to help me look at it. So I have 32 hundredths, 30 hundredths, and 64 hundredths. Which one's next? Ladybug. Which one's next? Mosquito. And then our friend, the moth. Maya read about a stick insect that is 1 1/1600 centimeters long. She compared the length with the lengths in the table. Maya said the mosquito is longer than the stick insect because 32 hundredths is greater than 16 hundredths. Is Maya's reasoning correct? Yeah. Explain. Turn to your neighbor and talk to your neighbor about it. The reasoning. No, she's not correct. Why? Because she forgot about our whole number, right? There's 1 whole centimeter and 16 hundredths. Not just 32 hundredths like the mosquito. So that's why she's off. That's all I got. We're going to talk some more about this tomorrow.